Hi guys, I'm so excited today. So I'm Pina Brandy and I'm a property investment strategist. And with me today, I have Craig. He's a mastermind of helping people, especially businesses, how to have profit from their very first year. And I know that sounds like a miracle, especially for businesses. They usually you start with the mindset, oh, how much am I willing to lose at the beginning in order to make money? But this guy has the solution. So I'm gonna let him introduce himself. Go, take it away, Craig.
Yeah, thank you for that very, very nice and welcoming introduction, Pina. As you touched upon there, basically I just love helping businesses. What I talk about is building and implementing $1 million profit plans, and it is that idea of people being able to take a profit from the very first dollar that they get into the business, or if they've been in business for a while, from this day forth, being able to say, yes, we're going to take profit from the business and put it into our pocket. And it is this mindset. And for me, what you touched upon there at the very start, a lot of us think when we start out in business that we're going to have this hard slog period. We're going to be putting money into the business ourselves, whether it's from our own money, whether it's external investors or whatever it is. That's what I did in my first business. I didn't take any money out of it. I kept on reinvesting money and those sorts of things. And, it didn't actually pay to fruition in I guess, the mindset of it all. And that's where I think what I do now, and I came across this book that I've got sitting here in front of me, and it's this little book called Profit First that got written by a guy in the US called Mike Michalowicz. And I'd come across these other books and I'd read a couple of them. And I'm like, yeah, this is really cool. And then I came across this book, Profit First, and I went, wow, this is really cool, really interesting. It looks at managing finances, managing profits a little bit differently. And I'm an accountant. I've, done the 3-year degree in accountancy. I've done the postgrad studies and all those sorts of things. And I get the accounting side of things and the things that need to happen from an accounting perspective, but the rational, practical elements of being able to manage cash flow and get profit from the business, the book really resonated with me. And so I guess once I started to delve more, I started working with clients in helping them implement and putting a bigger picture around it as well, where it's this idea of having a profit plan. Something like Profit First is a great tool that actually helps bring that to life.
Wow. Sounds amazing. It's so funny you say that, because in property, we have a lot of books that we read as well. We kind of start from there and then we build from there. But basically, when we start in property, it's all about wealth building and securing your finances for the future. So it's not very different from a business. And one book that really resonates to me, that I find it's very similar to your book, is the Richest Man in Babylon. And what it teaches is exactly that. Pay yourself first. And it teaches you, like, whatever money you get, you just have to take 10% of that and take it out and save, put it away, because that's like you're paying yourself first for the future. Now, I know that it's super hard to implement in real life, especially when you have bills and stuff coming in. But how do you do this, and how do you implement this actually in a real business? So how do you help people?
Yeah, that's a great comparison there, Pina, because you know what, exactly what you just talked about there. When I was reading Profit First the first time, I've also read Richest Man in Babylon in the past. And as I was reading it, I was sitting there going, well, this is kind of Richest Man in Babylon transferred and transposed into a business framework. And it's not rocket science. It's not anything. It's not reinventing the wheel. It's just taking that idea and customizing it and tweaking it to suit a particular purpose. And I think, it can be challenging to implement, and the same as Richest Man in Babylon, the same as Profit First. The reality is they're great frameworks, and they give us a great base to start with, and they can be flexible. And that's something that people often, they read a book and they go, oh, that's the way it needs to be and it has to be this. But you touched upon it there yourself as, they're a great starting point. And, the thing with something like Profit First and this notion idea of being able to pay yourself profit from day one is very much an incremental approach to doing it. It's no different to me saying, you know, I want to get fit and I want to run a marathon. If I go out tomorrow and I run that 42 kilometres, I'm going to hurt myself pretty bad. I probably won't finish it. I'll swear off ever doing it again in my life. But if I sit there and go, well, okay, I'm going to go for a 1 kilometre run tomorrow and I'm going to slowly build up and do those sorts of things. It's the same in the personal space in the world that you deal with property investing and people accumulating, money to be able to get a deposit and, do those sorts of things. It's the same in business. And it's this notional idea of going, hey, let's start small. Let's start incrementally. And it can be, in my space with business owners, it can be as little as, putting aside, opening up a separate bank account, call it a profit account, and people start transferring 1% of all the cash that they get into the business on a periodic basis, say weekly. If you earn $10,000 over the past week, then $100 of that you put into this profit account. And all of a sudden that 1% goes in a profit account. You just let it build there, and then you do the same next week. You do the same the week after. You have all these little incremental amounts going into a profit account that all of a sudden you sit there and you go, oh, this is pretty cool. I like this. I want more of that. I want to increase the increments, or I want to do what I need to do to get more of that. But what's happening in the background to all that is that human psychology goes, there's, certain plate sizes. It's Parkinson's law. We consume what we see, and it's this idea of going, if I've got one big bank account, I get a huge amount of money in, and I go, oh, awesome, I can go spend this. Next minute you spend it all and it's all gone. I've got to chase more money to then pay other things that are happening in the business. And by separating that out, you're focusing on that other bank account. It's like you're now operating off 99% of the business. And so all of a sudden you're sitting there going, well, what do I need to do to manage off this amount of the business? Human behavior goes, we get pretty creative when we need to make stuff happen. And some people go, oh, I can't think of a new innovative idea. I'm not creative. I'm not innovative. But as human beings, we are actually hardwired to do that. But it's this idea of going, well, put a framework in place to force yourself to do it, and you can make it happen. It's no different going, I've got a kid that's bored, is anything.
It's so funny that you say that because, I come across a lot of different type of people. And most of the time, unfortunately, in order to buy property, you do need a deposit. That's what you need. And people struggle to save that deposit. And then they go like in that, oh, I don't know, I'll never own anything. I'll never have anything. And when they buy something, let's say if you buy an off the plan or a townhouse is being built, now suddenly you start saving so much more because you just have that commitment that you cannot fail anymore because you put your money there and it has to be there. And exactly like you said, we start being creative. We stop the Uber Eats every second night and we go back to the 1 minute noodles and you just go like that. Now, I had a look around and I saw that a lot of people believe that the Profit First book or strategy doesn't work for entrepreneurship. It doesn't work for people that have big dreams that they want to grow fast. How do you explain that? Why do you think people have that type of misconception about it?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's a really interesting one in that it comes back to what you touched upon there of the mindset of this idea and the notion of the reality is people see the structure and the idea of Profit First and they go, oh, that doesn't work for me because, and I can give you 101 different excuses and reasons why people, say that it's not going to work for them. And that's part of us as entrepreneurs. I class myself as one of them. I'm guessing you probably do yourself. That I know it works for me. And I know it can work for any business out there, big, small, in between, any different industry. Because at the end of the day, every business is 99% the same DNA. We might do all different things and all the rest of it, but at the end of the day, we all have a product or a service. We all have to acquire new clients. We have to convert those people, and then we need to deliver, whether it's the service, whether it's the product, and then we need to collect on that. At the end of the day, that's what all business owners do. And whether people are doing that well and they're scaling massively and they're scaling quickly, or doing it slowly, then everybody's still doing the same thing. And what Profit First does, it actually puts a framework around that to help make sure that it's sustainable, whatever that is. And this is the idea of going, whether it wants to be quick, whether it wants to be slow, it can become sustainable. And it's a process that's going to help you do it behaviorally rather than you needing to learn and understand, like I did, going to how to read a P&L, a profit and loss report, or a balance sheet for those people that not fully up to speed with that because they don't necessarily look at those very often. And this is a way to actually help them make those decisions. And it's a fascinating one where people will say, oh yeah, Profit First talk about taking profit, but I should be reinvesting that money. And that's not to say that you don't reinvest the money, but it's the mindset around that changes in as much as you make profit, you can take that money from the business because it's for your reward. If you then want to choose to reinvest it, then it's this very conscious process that somebody goes through to go, well, if I've got that money, what's the best investment for that? Is the best investment to go into my business to grow it and scale it massively, quickly, exponentially? Or is this investment in, say, my property portfolio over here, or my share portfolio, or whatever it is that a better investment? And so if people are at least having this conscious cycle of going, yeah, I don't like to use the term reinvesting the business, because what that kind of is people going, oh, whatever money I get in, I'm just going to spend it out. And that's generally what happens, is that it becomes this notion of money in, money out. Whereas though, by putting the framework and using something like Profit First, it gives that notion where you're making conscious decisions about, yes, is there money coming back in? Well, what's the return on investment that I need to get to make that viable? And yes, do I need to go to there or not? And then I can make those really conscious decisions around, is it sustainable to do it as well? Is the infrastructure set up well enough around that that's actually going to be sustainable in the longer term? Because a lot of people go, hey, I can use this money and I can push off the tax, and we've just hit close to an end of financial year, and look, my tax isn't due until 6, 7, 8 months. I'm going to use that money to be able to grow, and I can do all that sort of things. And that's great, and that's all good. But what's your guarantee that you're going to have that money in the bank in that 6 or 7 or 8 months' time? If something comes up and it's a challenge, then all of a sudden, this is where business is. Very common thing that happens. You end up in tax debt, tax trouble, and all those things, because they spend this future money because they haven't made that growth cycle sustainable. And what we do and what we have, Profit First is a great framework for helping making decisions right now. But we've also got some tools that help people make decisions for that exponential growth as well, so people can see, well, when do I owe that money, and how do I set things up for that sustainable growth?
That's awesome. Now, to put things into perspective here to people, like if you own a business, you need an accountant for the business. Some people have business coaches as well to keep them accountable, and some business coaches do work with that type of structure as well. Where do you fit in for a business, and when is the right time to engage you? When they're starting their business, in their second year of their business, or when it's a more mature business? So when do you think people will benefit the most? And is there a specific type of business that has higher success rates with Profit First, or not really?
Yeah, there's a number of areas there to unpack, so I'll do my best to be as succinct as possible around that. But I guess where somebody like myself fits in, it's this notion of helping build a team around a business owner. And that's what I believe, any business, and I know myself included, I've always got two sort of coaches or mentors at any given time for the specific things that I need at those given points in times. And, accountants are great, but most accountants that I see out there, and again, I am an accountant, so I can say this with a fair bit of clarity, is, they are doing the compliance and the structures and the taxation and all those sorts of things. And they're working with huge numbers of clients because, it's the process type of side of things. Some accountants add a bit of advisory in there, but there's a question mark on how much they actually do for that. And it's the other idea of where I sit into the picture is more saying, well, hey, with the operational day-to-day management of your cash and your cash flow, how can we do that the best so that we can get the most cash out of the business into your pockets? And then how's the best way to pay yourself from a structural and minimize tax? That's where it's kind of, that's over to the tax accountant to go, hey, we need you guys because you guys are awesome at going, well, number one, I want to pay more tax personally. Let's make more money, pay more tax. I want to minimize it and pay it as tax effectively as I can, and those sorts of things. And that's where there's a very clear difference between usually what I do and what an accountant sort of does. And similarly with a business coach, some business coaches do touch upon financial areas, but what I tend to see is a lot of business coaches are more around the growing sales and the business growth and those sorts of things. And this ties into this notion of where's the priority of what you need to work on. Ultimately, there's a nice little business hierarchy of needs, which, there's another great little book that people can check out and look at. And it's this notion of what do people need to fix this next notion and idea in business. At the end of the day, people need to make sales first. So people need to probably generating some sales, or even at a startup phase where, they're very confident that they've got those sales there and it's going to happen. As soon as that is happening, then that's where having somebody like myself to really focus on the profitability side of things and make sure you've got the systems and structures in there comes into play. And so sometimes it's around about the same time as the growth's happening, or sometimes it's a little bit after, hey, yeah, we've got the sales. Yes, we can see that that's coming through. Cool. Let's put the framework in around that to then make sure we've got the profitability, we're managing the cash flow good. And now we're in a place to go to the next level, which is all around efficiency, productivity, streamlining, other systems and processes around the business. And this kind of that notion of that's where I guess the profit component sort of sits in there. And a lot of people go from sales to, yeah, let's create great systems and all the rest of it. But they miss the step of getting their profitability right. And that's kind of where I usually sit into that piece of the puzzle. And it is starting from, I've had people, pure startups, and I've got one right now, which was they engaged me before they'd actually launched because, hey, they had everything lined up. They know that their sales are going to be there and we want to get it right from day one. And ultimately, I believe that's the best time to do it because, hey, you get your system set up and you know where your projections are. You're off and rolling and you know you're going to be sustainable for the whole period. But I guess the second one is it can be any time, but it is when people have hit that point where they're usually wanting to go to a next level and there's something holding them back. And, they're getting more sales, but they're not paying themselves more. They've got more stress. They've got more of this. They've got a problem with their profitability and their cash flow. And that's when it's the idea of going, well, they're not getting what they need from an accountant or a bookkeeper, who's usually the person that's helping them with their financials, then why keep doing the same thing that's not working for them? And this is where something like what I do and Profit First comes in, because it's a different way of looking at it from what has or hasn't worked in the past. And I guess to touch upon types of businesses I work with, to be honest, at the moment, it's very wide and varied. I've had businesses from, as I just touched upon there, the small startup, they've got some pretty good projections hitting out there, but also I've had, $30,000 businesses that are trying to grow and move and, up to a point where, at the moment, my largest client's probably in the $5 to $6 million turnover space and the like. And, this is this notion idea of does it work for any size business? I know for a fact that it will work with large business because it does it all around the world. I know there's $100 million businesses using Profit First in the US. I know that that's happening. And it's the reality is it's a framework. How it looks in a $100 million business versus how it looks for the startup, very different. But again, it comes back to it. It's a framework that something like me, I deal with this every day. And I only work with people who are willing to implement Profit First and a profit plan because I believe that's what is driven to having a successful business is focusing on that profitability.
That is so cool. Now, Craig, let's say we have a business owner or someone that is thinking to open their own business and they watch this and they listen to you. can they reach out to you? How can they actually get in touch with you? Do you charge for just the first consultation? How does it work?
Yeah, there's basically a few ways that people can get in touch with me, and thank you for the opportunity to be able to share that. I guess as a starting point, people can find me at my website, which is minctcdconsulting.com.au, and or the socials. I'm across all the social media. If people look up Mint CD Consulting or my profile, I do share content around profitability, cash flow, profit first on all those channels. And a way that people can find one of those groups, I've got a Facebook group there, and it's driven by, if you look up theprofitproject.com au as well. So, that is probably two great ways that people can find me. And, it's this whole idea, I do try to educate people. People can get any of that content and start to be across what you do, how you do it. Grab a copy of the book. It's widely available around the world through Amazon and, all good bookstores and those sites. It's on Audible for those that like to listen. And as far as an initial, chat, and I'm always happy to have a quick chat with people around Profit First, any initial questions that they may have, and to guide them on the path as to whether it's right to engage somebody like myself, or whether it's, hey, here's the free resources that people can grab to help them implement themselves.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. And oh my God, I learned so much. And I didn't know that was so similar to make a business profitable as is to build your property portfolio. It's very similar, but and the challenges and the mindset. And I really, really appreciate your time for stopping by and having this chat with me. And thank you so much. And I'll put below in the description box all your LinkedIn and all your socials, so people can really look up and search for you. And I'll be one of the first one actually asking to join your group, so I can learn more about that. And yeah, thank you so much.
It's been great to be on the call, and you're exactly right. There are so many similarities. They cross over into that personal space and the investing space, as well as the business space. So really appreciate you having me on today, Tina.